Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, also known as the reason why I have updated my Facebook relationship status into It's Complicated with Adobe products. And today in Travel Hacking 101, I want to tell you all about the miles and the points and especially how this game is played. This is because after my frequent flyer program episode, a lot of you seem to be a little bit confused about how the miles and points exactly how they work because I briefly touched on it. So I decided to make this a mini series. So we go into all of the gritty details about how miles and points work. So this series will be divided into these following parts. This episode will be all about what is miles and points, and the next episode will be how do you obtain the miles, and then the next one will be how do you calculate how many miles you're gonna earn, and lastly, how do you spend the miles. So these 4 episodes are the core mechanics of basically how miles and points work. And maybe I'll tack on a very special special edition episode at the end. So don't forget to subscribe in order not to miss out. Well, with all of that out of the way, let's begin with what are the points and miles. So before we dive headfirst into the points and miles, jargon, and all of the complicated stuff, in order to save you and me both some sanity, I will be referring to both miles and points as miles from now on in the entire series. This is because a lot of the airlines simply call it miles, while some others think they are cooler, decided to call it points. But they are literally the same thing. It's just different airlines prefer to call it differently. Okay? Okay. So we have to talk about the 2 major types of miles. A lot of the people call it miles, but actually both of them are completely different from each other. So the first type is called RDM, and the second type is called EQM. Let's start with a concept that is a little bit more difficult to grasp, which is the idea of EQM. EQM stands for Elite Qualifying Miles. So now it should be clear to you, it is basically a metric of measuring how much closer you are to qualifying for the next elite tier. So in fact, it is completely worthless. You cannot exchange EQM for any goods and services, and it is basically a metric that the airlines internally measure how much wealth you have generated for the company. So in fact, a lot of the airlines will even rank every single elite in their internal documents so that they basically rank the elites that is most profitable to them, have spent the most amount of money, hence more EQM with them at the top all the way down to the bottom. So yeah, basically EQM is completely worthless and will actually be wiped clean to 0 at the end of each elite qualifying period. And the elite qualifying period here in North America are generally considered to be 1 calendar year. So your EQM will completely reduce to 0 at the end of December or sometimes around the end of January. And it will start all over again in 0 and you have to work all the way from bottom up again. While in North Europe and a lot of other regions, their EQM actually wipes to 0 during your qualification period that depends upon your date of joining the program. So for example, if you join the program on December 15th, then the next year on December 14th, your entire EQM will be wiped to 0, which to me is really bizarre, but hey, that's their rules, right? And a lot of the Asian programs, as well as some of the other fringe programs, will even give you 2 years because they know it's harder to accumulate EQM with them. So you have 2 years to accumulate enough miles so you can reach the elite tier, and then it will be wiped to 0, and then another 2-year period will start. So yeah, now we know all about EQM. Let's go to something more traditional, the RDM. And so RDM stands for Redeemable Miles. And yeah, they are exactly what they say. You can redeem those miles for goods and services. So they're basically like some kind of a currency that the airlines use to barter with you. And they will usually give you some kind of kickback whenever you consume something with them. For example, buying things from their merch shop or simply flying with them. And then they will give you a small percentage of basically rebates in the form of miles and points. So with these miles, you can slowly accumulate them over the years and perhaps, use them to buy a free ticket or buy some gifts for your friends and family when the time comes. So yeah, they of course do not expire, such as EQM every year, but a lot of the airlines have made them basically possible to expire after a while of inactivity. But of course, I will teach you some tricks and tips that you can circumvent this kind of situation and give your miles infinite lifespan, but that will be in a different video. So yeah, now we know RDM is basically some kind of account you have with the bank, and whenever you consume something with the airline, they will deposit a little bit into that bank account, and once you reach enough threshold, instead of exchanging it or withdrawing it, you can basically redeem it for certain kinds of goods and services. That's pretty easy to understand, right? Well, now comes the warning part. A lot of the bloggers, as well as people trying to push for credit card sign-up bonuses, as well as the other commissions, will usually conveniently forget to mention you this. All of the airlines technically control every mile you own. Whenever you sign up to the program, you will always agree to completely relinquish all of the control of your miles to the airline. So yeah, instead of comparing to a bank account, as I said earlier, it is actually closer to your Asian parents holding onto your red packet money. Sure, it is technically given to you and it is belong to you, but they are just holding it on for safekeeping. But actually, you know what? Yeah, they have full control of all of the points and the miles and the money or whatever. So yeah, they actually own everything you have, and that means they can do whatever they want with it and you cannot do anything about it. The game is completely rigged, but it is just something that you have to play because it might be the only game in town. So for example, sometimes they can just completely just say that, your account is suspicious. I'm gonna suspend your account for a month. And yeah, you can appeal, but they can just make an internal decision, just like, nah, we don't like it. And so in some very extreme cases, they can directly just cancel your account and destroy all of the work you have done in the past decade of all of the miles you have accumulated with them just because you said something that they don't like. Well, now that you have finished all of the warnings and tips of what exactly is a mile, congratulations! You should be able to tell the difference between an EQM, Elite Qualified Mile, and an RDM, Redeemable Mile. These are very important concepts that will help you dive further and deeper into this miles and points game, but they will also be very important concepts for you to grasp on for the next parts to come in this series. And yeah, coincidentally, in the next part, I will tell you all about how you can get more miles in a specific program, and that applies to both RDM as well as the EQM. So don't forget to subscribe if you want to check out the newest episodes whenever they come out. And of course, like this video whenever you can. And if you want to check out some of the other interesting or very funny travel hacking stories, you can always click right here beside me. And I'll see you next part in Travel Hacking 101.
First of all, congratulations, Mr.
Airline.
Hello, I like money.
What inspired you to build a
Frequent flyer program.
right next door to the original?
Money.